This conference will now be recorded.
DJ, you want to
Yeah,
repeat your words for posterity, a summary?
yeah. So Facebook and Microsoft is working on joint design activity for co-packaged optics, and they are ready to release a requirements document. Ideally, they want to release it by Amsterdam Summit. So the question came internally is where is the right forum in the community to release it? One idea was let's create our own website and release it. But then when I probed that where does it land over longer term, everybody said it's going to be in OCP. So then my question was, okay, if it's in OCP, let's just bring it in OCP. So which area where it will it go? Will it go into the networking track, server track, storage track, and then of course we have ODSA project. So what I feel is that it naturally belongs to ODSA project, primarily because over long term, ODSA can think of itself providing solutions where either you're bringing electrical signals into the module or even optical signals into the module through co-packaging of chips, and that's what co-packaged optics is all about. So the question which I have for everybody here to discuss and debate is, does a CPO requirements document belong to ODSA? And the way we would release it is, somebody from Facebook will come, present it, and then we can vote on it or we can ask questions. And then eventually there'll be a wiki link on the ODSA page where anybody can find the requirements document, whoever is looking for co-packaged optics related work. Did I put everyone to sleep?
No. I think we have two guys. There are three people in mind who I think can answer this. Alex, Mark, and Robert. And fortunately, we have Mark and Robert with us today. So
Yeah, from my perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense to have requirements for unpackaged optics in ODSA. So I'd be supportive of that.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Anybody else has any comments, concerns, thoughts?
Robert, I know I'm putting you on the spot. It's the first week, but you're one of our resident analog experts.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, just trying to find the unmute button. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I think from our perspective, as we discussed, having a requirements or at least a more precise implementation guideline document would be important. I think given that we have different files there, what we discussed was that we'll come up with a specific framework to have a stack that works for different files and provide that as a potential guideline for other folks to review.
Yeah. So I was going to come to that. I think I'm hoping to hear your opinion on, you and Mark are analog guys, whether hanging a requirement to co-packaged optics is a meaningful thing for us.
So I don't know the background. What is the co-packaged optics? What is it?
So co-packaged optics is the idea of optical fiber being pushed directly to the package. And Facebook and Google, I don't know whether you're late so Facebook and Google have a requirements document, and we're trying to find
Microsoft.
Microsoft, excuse me. I apologize. It says MSFT right here in my notes. All right.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, if you think about what ODSA is trying to do with chiplet-based architectures, you could imagine a scenario where you have like a SerDes interface chiplet, which I think is something interesting and being explored in the prototype group, that could naturally be replaced with maybe a chiplet, maybe a chip scale package with electrical to optical interface. So to me, I feel it's a natural fit. with the
Yeah.
kind of work that we've been trying to do.
So,
I'll just
I
chime
think
in here. This is Quinn, and say that from our perspective, short reach communication falls under a common theme here, and we believe that optics of the package should be aligned with chiplet in the long term. So I strongly believe it fits within the domain.
In terms of the co-packaged optics, I think you got two pretty good companies supporting it. One mainly being a system vendor. Now, specifically on the communication side, OIF forum has a lot of activities going on with respect to the silicon photonics connections on both the optics side as well as the electric side with the 112 gig XSR. So I would definitely probably endorse something within a community where a lot of brains and time has already been put into that, and adopt something that's in public domain.
Yeah, that's a great point, Robert. Thank you for bringing it up. Actually, what is happening in past relatively recent history is Facebook is starting to contribute optical related requirements and specs into OCP. An example of that is 100 gig short reach pluggable optic spec, which was contributed, I believe, 1.5 years back. Facebook is also on track to contribute 200 gig optical spec, pluggable optical spec in next 6 months or maybe 8 months. And beyond that, at OCP, Hans-Jürgen discussed co-packaged optics in last Amsterdam Summit, and the primary application was in situations where you have network switch, which is very high radix, and now obviously the power goes up and connectivity also becomes complicated. So if you can bring co-packaged optics into a networking switch, then you can design very high radix compact switches, which is something eventually could again be released through OCP, because all of Facebook hardware is through OCP. So I think that is the motivation for looking at OCP as a venue.
So the systems integration, right? That's
Yes.
what you mean, right, PJ? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to take a devil's advocate point of view here. I think there's a risk of mission creep for ODSA itself, but I'm not. I mean, of course, I believe that optical interconnects are very important, and the co-package of them is quite a challenge that requires standards. I wonder if it makes sense to kind of restructure in a way that there's a heterogeneous integration kind of collection of work groups, and ODSA would be one of them, but then integrated optics could be another one. And that way, instead of having a mission creep into one working group, you set up separate working groups, because otherwise, I think probably, there's already not enough resources here to do the prototype and things like that. And then if we add mission creep on it, then it's going to be a distraction.
Yeah, I want to kind of qualify. There is no mission creep. This is not part of the current ODSA activity. There is no expectation of ODSA to do anything about including this into the current POC or anything of that sort. Like I explained earlier on, the way I'm imagining is ODSA itself will have two work streams over period of time, over longer period of time. Currently, we are engaged in only one, which is all electrical interfaces going in and out of the module. And that's what the POC is about, and that's where all the effort is. Over longer period of time, you could have even a network switch, for example, with co-packaged optics. That actually qualifies as an open domain-specific architecture if you just use that phrase very simply. It would use somewhat similar technologies with interposers and such, except the IOs will be optical in nature. And the set of contributors on that side of the effort could be very different from the set of contributors who are on the current effort, because the expertise required is very different in some areas like optics. So I'm not expecting any mission creep. This is just a placeholder where people can access the spec through a wiki link, and it is completely going to be managed by Microsoft and Facebook in terms of moving this effort forward. There's no expectation of ODSA group to do any specific activity other than just have this on the wiki link.
Okay. Hey, DJ, just FYI, it's not co-packaged optics, but one of our thoughts is that Samtech gets awfully close in terms of like a small connector right next to the package, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And companies like Samtech can probably look at this and then they can say, hey, we know a few things to contribute, and then that helps Facebook and Samtech to have conversation. So
Yeah.
that's the whole idea of releasing a spec in an open environment, so that the specifications are accessible to everyone freely and openly. And these are primarily things like, laser output power, maybe what's the jitter on the laser, a lot of optical parameters, extinction ratio, bandwidth, modulation frequency. God knows what other parameters would be there, but we'll get a preview of all of that when they present it. So it has to go in OCP, and I'm thinking if it doesn't go to ODSA, then maybe networking would be where it would land, but only because that's the first use case, not the only use case, but that's the first use case.
Yeah. Well, if the DARPA guys also line up co-packaged optics with heterogeneous integration. So there's the organization precedent to line up co-packaged optics with heterogeneous integration.
Right.
But the DARPA is using the silicon interposers and not really the organic
Yeah, I'm saying
substrate.
in terms of a network home, in terms of just a programmatic home, their heterogeneous integration effort is pretty reasonably coupled to their optics to the package effort. I'm not saying that we were following. It's just in terms of organization.
Right.
So maybe we can let people think about it, and we can discuss it in next week's call. I just wanted to float the idea, not that we need to reach a decision, but this is something everybody can think about and discuss again next week. But
I
for
think
sure, Facebook wants to release this for announcement at Amsterdam Summit. So that's the timeline I became aware of yesterday afternoon.
But DJ, in terms of releasing it in this, what I'm assuming is that you would like some in terms of release. Are you expecting any technical review from Mark Quinn, Alex's company,
No,
or
no,
Alex?
no, no,
Okay,
not really.
not
We are
really.
not
Okay,
looking for any feedback. We are looking for
it's
having
just a home.
find a home. Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
so in
this
that
is where
case,
it sits. In fact, the requirements are purely controlled by Microsoft and Facebook. Obviously, when supplier would read it and they can have a private conversation with Microsoft or Facebook and say, look, you have this stringent requirement on the power output because of this reason, but my particular device can have relaxed power output because I achieve this in a different way. Then obviously Microsoft and Facebook would listen and think about it. But we are not looking for people to say come and ratify it. No.
okay.
So it's a very low touch effort, honestly. It's just, where do we put it? That was the question. Should we create its own website? Should we put it somewhere? And OCP is probably where it goes from a Facebook perspective for all the reasons I mentioned. The next question would be, where inside OCP would this belong to?
Yep. Okay.
I think the question you want
Yeah,
to answer is where are people going to find it? So will they know to look here rather than the networking subgroups or some other groups? So I think that's where you want to keep it. Otherwise, if
No,
it's
so
obscured somewhere where it's not obvious, then so
no, good question.
that's
So the way they are going to release it's not that we just put the spec somewhere and don't tell it to anybody. We are going to have a keynote in Amsterdam, and in the keynote we are going to talk about this co-package optics effort, and also the fact that we have released it within ODSA. Maybe this gives some marketing firepower to ODSA. I don't know, because if it's an ODSA area, then they'll say this is where it is, this is how to find it, and then they will go and you know have suppliers and everybody come and look at it, basically at ODSA website.
perfect. Okay, so
Okay, that's all I had. Yep.
perfect. I will. I think what I'm hearing is there's reasonable support. So I'd say unless there's a really good reason not to, we ought to do this, but we can close next week.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, DJ. Okay, so then I want to, before I go to we have Robert from Analog X online today. Robert is going to hopefully drive a definition of a pipe interface across PHYs. Obviously, it's going to be somewhat PHY specific, but he's going to drive the requirements and across the different kinds of PHYs. He has his company has some previous expertise in the pipe interface and the adapter. Robert, if you'd like to say anything else, please do.
Yeah, I think coming up with the complete definition is probably an overstatement because we have various different files. So the goal is to come up with the framework of the what currently called is a pipe adapter. Now, previously, people mainly all the different file uses the PCS, but I think the pipe adapter definition has been used in this particular forum. So come up with the framework that's compatible, because we don't want to exclude any particular files. Come up with a pipe adapter that is compatible with many different files that provides a more or less a unified interface with respect to existing controllers. Now we have to see whether the controllers needs to make minor modifications or not, but at least that's the goal. So I'm going to work with Bobby on the Tuesday call to ensure that we pull in the correct stakeholders for the different files and make sure that the adapter's definition is as inclusive as possible, not to exclude any particular, specific signaling or file standards that's currently out there.
And Cadence, Wendy from Cadence just joined the call, and then she dropped out. I'm assuming she had Cadence has also said they have a PCI controller architect. Unfortunately, he's in India. Well, no, not unfortunately, but in terms of timing. But he will also be able to work with us. Right now, I think it's Paul and Dave Kalett from Intel, and Robert and Brian Holden from Candu. All of us are going to be working on the pipe adapter. Anybody else who's interested, you're of course welcome to join. But this is a very exciting development. I've got to tell you, the one feature in the ODSA stack that's received a lot of attention, no matter who sees it, is this concept of a pipe adapter. And lots of credit to Brian for proposing it originally for Candu. Or something. Oh, Robert, you're going to look at the new low power pipe mode, right? That Intel announced at the last workshop. they are a
Are
low
you
power.
talking about the short reach SerDes mode that's currently in the
Yeah,
pipe definition?
yeah.
I mean, like, so there's, yeah, so I don't know if you want to get into that level of detail at this meeting, but the idea is to be compatible to, the existing controllers and future controller development, or what Intel calls a Mac development. So I don't know if all the controllers currently out there support the version 5.2, or I think it was 5.2, but definitely we want to, you're talking to Cadence, which is a great start. I think both you and I probably know someone at Synopsys and PLD as well. So we can look at what they're implementing. I think they will be compliant to what the pipe definition is, and we want to be compatible to that as well.
Perfect.
And yeah, I see Rita online. I don't know if maybe Rita can, um,
I actually don't know who Rita is. I'm happy she's here, but I don't think I've ever been introduced. So,
Sure. This is my first time. Yes, I'm Rita Horner. I'm representing Synopsys. And yes, we do have a Pipe 5.2 support for PCIe Gen 5, and that's what that was defined for. And there are two flavors of pipe, I believe. There's the SerDes mode, and then there's a low pin count version. Are we looking at the SerDes mode, where pretty much the controller has all the encoding decoding?
yeah.
yes.
So sorry, go ahead.
Robert. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think from the FICE definition, I think folks are looking at leveraging the existing definition to be compatible to the whatever you want to call it, the MAC layer, or normally I use PCIe controller, but the definition of pipe calls it the MAC layer. So it can use potentially use several different mode as long as it's compatible to that interface. And it would be great if you join the Tuesday call that we're going to have, and possibly provide feedback with respect to, on the controller side, what is acceptable to your implementation or not.
So I represent mainly the PHY side, but definitely I can contact our controller or PCS later folks and make sure they're participating. Is there a way to find out about this call on Tuesdays? I haven't seen that or aware of that, or is that new?
Absolutely. So by way of, in addition to this weekly call, this is more like an organizational call. We have weekly calls on the PHY, the link layer, the POC, the bow interface, and business. So we have 5 separate weekly calls because it's a smaller group of people. And this is a overview call. So if you go to the minutes for the meeting on August 2nd, you should be able to find a monthly summary. Excuse me, a summary of the activities. And I'll be happy to. You're obviously welcome to join any one of them, and I'll send you an invitation to the Tuesday morning call for the PHY.
Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you.
But yeah, if you look at the minutes, there's a link to monthly reports for each of the efforts, if you want to circulate that internally.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita. Okay. So then Robert, anything else on the pipe adapter?
No, let's go over some material on Tuesday first, with you, Brian, and I hope maybe Ramin is going to join as well. If we can have a bit more representation from the Mac and controller side, from the major vendors out there. Like you said, there aren't that many, so as long as we have their support as well, I believe it's a very good thing for this ODSA project.
It is. I'm very excited that you're able to do this. I think it's going to make a big difference for. It's definitely a feature that's attracted a lot of support.
Yeah, we'll contribute what we can and what we think, what people need. But different five vendors also need to pitch in their thing because that's the hardest thing, right? You have different files and you want to come to a more common interface for people to adopt.
Yep. Agree. Okay. Then in terms of the next item is the 912 workshop. Sorry, I want to show you. I don't have much change in the, I don't have much change in the agenda. I think if we're working on whether Robert can make it and add the pipe to the agenda as well. Outside of that, the agenda is still looking like so. Anybody have any new suggestions, thoughts on changes to the agenda? Or you're welcome to talk about anything you'd like to talk about as well, any new topic.
So, Bobby, quick question. Were you able to get any further communication from Ashwin Pujari?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
But I haven't
Good.
closed the loop with him, but absolutely did, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Let me actually put his name down. Do you spell his name with the two O's or a U? I don't remember. Okay.
Two O's.
Okay. Yeah, Bill. I at some point, I'll sync up with you offline about the HR and ASE. Calvin, I think, sent an email saying he can send something. But I never did close the loop with him.
Okay, so I will. Let me say this. I will call Elko and Calvin today and said which one would you, whoever it is, they need to send an email to you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I would. That.
Thank you. And if you think you have, sorry, Bill, please go ahead.
Can you tell us how much time do you think each person will speak on for HR and also for ASE?
So presentations go for about 30 minutes, and panels go for about an hour.
So 30 minutes, including the Q&A. 25 minutes talk and 5 minutes Q&A. Is that good?
Exactly.
Okay.
And Reza, I still have you guys down for a slot, right?
No, I'm sorry, Bobby. We have a conflict with that date. We can't present. I said that actually last time.
You did. I'm sorry. I missed it. Okay.
Yeah,
Never
sorry
mind.
about that.
No worries. No worries. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is it. I think I'm going this coming week. Hopefully, I'm going to pay more attention. I do want I want to spend 5 minutes on one other thing. I'm on the hook to organize an open source panel. I want to do a preview. I'm on the hook to organize an open source panel at Amsterdam, and I want to do a preview of the panel at our 912 workshop. This is my document on the sort of what the panel should be about, and I'm hoping to get some feedback from everyone on whether this looks like what the topic looks like, what your thoughts are, who potentially good participants are. And the basic idea is that there's been a huge change in open hardware, that there's a lot of attention paid. There's several new organizations, and maybe there's a lot of attention paid to the ISA and the CPU. And I'm looking at maybe we'll have a panel looking at the rest of the chip. And the questions are two broad buckets of questions are: how do you make open source, and how do you make it in a sustainable manner, and what does it take to get used? What are the consumption models? What do you care about? What do different kinds of users care about? I am hoping for some feedback on whether this looks like a good topic for a panel, and who do you think could be a good contributor participant? Anyone? I'm going to start naming names. Come on. Help me out here.
Participate in the panel to help represent the end user view in the hyperscaler.
Sorry?
I said Facebook would participate in the panel and represent the hyperscaler end user view. Could also discuss our interest in the domain.
Does this look like a reasonable structure in terms of scope? Too broad, too narrow? I think it's too broad, but
it does look awfully broad.
So I'm trying to sort of narrow it down. Anyway, I don't, please take a look at this. I'll share this document with you if you have any thoughts on narrowing it down or something which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a good start. I think there could be, if you want to narrow it down, then maybe you can think of focusing on what is it that ODSA is doing today and what are the plans for next 1 year. If you want to narrow it down, because that can be also a very impactful discussion where people can talk about how the deliberations happened, why did certain things were selected, what is the state of POC, where the help is needed. That could be a very tactical discussion, right? And that could make people aware of the current efforts. I think the way you have the structure, it's a pretty good broad structure, which kind of gives a lay of the land on, 100,000 foot level. The alternate could be, all the discussion on what's going on inside ODSA for next 1 year. And maybe have a context of why, right? And some of that then can be rolled in terms of, what's the business model or all of that. So just my thought.
Okay, that's it. And so, DJ, the one quick question I have is that this is a panel, a cross-conference panel, and it's a narrow ODSA specific scope is okay for a cross-conference panel?
Cross-conference. Sorry, this is a panel at open source event.
This is a panel at the Amsterdam Summit, but it's not in the ODSA session. It's a panel for the entire audience.
It's still an ODSA panel, right?
Well, it was meant to be an open design panel. So let me see if I can find the ODSA Amsterdam Summit. So it's not part of our session. It's
okay. So that makes it even more perhaps compelling, because everybody could be talking about the same broad things.
Yeah.
Right?
So I'm okay, but I just want to get some feedback because you guys have way more experience. I want to make sure that. So this is, let me see if there's a panel here somewhere. But where this is a cross conference, this is across the entire conference. It's not necessarily. It's at 1 p.m. somewhere in here. There's a panel.
And who is organizing that panel?
Me. That's why I'm asking you guys right now.
Oh, so you're organizing it, then you can focus it on ODSA, even though it's a cross conference. It's okay.
Okay, that's basically what I was looking for. It's okay. I mean, it's not a. I'm trying to find it here.
Yeah, somehow I thought that there was a panel in the ODSA workshop itself.
So Sam is doing a panel in the ODSA.
And this is something else then.
This is a separate panel around open design. That is, I'm certain it's on 1 o'clock on it's at for 3 p.m. or something on the first day. I can't find it right now. I'll find it, but it's a separate panel.
And who are the other invitees in that panel?
Right here.
Executive Collaborative Silicon Development.
I mean, we can fiddle with the title, but it's this panel which is really the which is not within the ODSA session.
Right. I guess you can still use it to kind of somewhat market ODSA or promote ODSA.
Yeah.
Educate people on ODSA.
Sorry?
educate people on ODSA. You can still
Yes.
use
Okay.
it.
So that I wanted to get some feedback on whether we would, so narrowing it down to ODSA is a good option then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We can definitely narrow it down to chiplets then, and
Yeah.
okay. And in terms of participants, fundamentally, the thought in my head is, this is roughly the agenda I had in mind. I wanted to seed the idea today and then round up potential participants over the next couple of weeks.
Sure. Sounds good, Bapi.
Okay, I'll share the document. Please give it some of your mighty brain power, everyone, and let's see if you have anybody in mind. Okay. The last one, I don't, is Quinn is left and Jawad's here. Okay, so it's not ready for sharing, but I wanted to, it's by no means complete, but I wanted to share the yeah, here it is. This is the POC, the framework of the POC funding request, and roughly, I'll take about 3 minutes and then I'll let everyone go. But basically, DJ and Kevin, and this is what it's looking like. We're sort of saying, look, this is an introduction to the ODSA. This is where the POC fits in. We're trying to do 3 levels of POC: board, test, the board, package, and chips. And we're coming to you for funding for the board, platform architecture, schedule, budget wise. We're getting a better handle on the budget, and roughly there's a funding request, gives and gets. We're trying to raise a total of 100K for stage 1. Gets tool support, early access for interface specification, maybe potentially a custom package part if they build their own accelerators, and where they get access to the baseboard and 3 accelerators and tool support in terms of gives and gets. This is roughly the flow of the deck right now. That makes sense? Does this align with what you were thinking of, DJ, in terms of POC asks? So you've probably seen most of these before. This is intro slides. So this is the POC specific content, and we get down to a specific ask.
Yeah, I think this is perfect, Bapi. In fact, I think what you should also do is maybe in a next another call or two, give this pitch to all of us, so we all kind of use the same language as what you think of, or we collectively have a same pitch. So if somebody is going to Google or somebody is going to Microsoft or any of our friends, we are all presenting the same pitch and the same message. So maybe you can tell us exactly how we should pitch it, and then we are happy to go our diverse ways and take this deck and pitch it internally.
Okay.
So I have a question on these calls. Apart from Facebook, are there any other end users who are joining this call?
Not this. So Matt's from Microsoft joins in on the link layer calls, and we sometimes on and off we have participation on the business side from Google, but I wouldn't say significant participation. And we don't have significant participation from any of the Chinese hyperscalers, either Alibaba, Baidu, or Tencent, or anyone in that space right now.
So here is an idea, Bapi, actually, to get this scaled very quickly. You can lock a day when you want to pitch on Friday, ensuring that all the end users are on that call on that day.
Okay.
And when you go through this deck, every end user will listen to your pitch. And then, of course, you can email the deck to everybody. And then these people can take that deck and pitch it further into their organization. So, for example, me and Kevin are from Facebook representative, and we will take this pitch and we will do something with it. But similarly, on any one given day, when you have given this pitch on Friday, let's say if somebody is from Baidu and Alibaba and Google and Microsoft, then they can also get access to the same deck, and then they can go and pitch it into internal organization. So I think you should somehow, if we can get that, achieved,
Yeah, it's a
where
great idea. Yeah.
one day, let's get all of these guys to join the call. Somehow, telling them that we are going to pitch it, whatever, please join this call on this day, one representative from your organization. And then the main agenda of that call would be you doing not only dry run, but somewhat pitching it to all the end users on that day.
Perfect. So, in fact, let's aim for 9/2. Maybe we can make we can do a combination of the monthly reports and a deep dive into the POC. Let's see, either 9/2 or we'll push it. We'll not 9/2, excuse me, 9/6 or 9/13. We'll aim for one of those 2 dates. We're going to actively recruit a bunch of end users to come in for the call.
Yeah. So it's your fundraising NPR day where you are going to talk nonstop for half an hour asking for money.
Okay, it's worth a shot.
We will all be manning the phone booths.
Okay. Mark, being the kind of generous soul, he already has his checkbook out. Okay, but this pitch looks about right?
Yeah.
Okay.
From my perspective, yes.
Any and then anybody else? The DJ is the one who asked for this pitch, so that's why I was soliciting his opinion. Obviously, I'm love anybody else's feedback on. The idea is to go off and raise some money for the POC, the hard cash to implement the POC, and also maybe to have more people develop their accelerators for the POC. I'm happy to share this deck with you in its current form. Let me know.
Yeah, send me whenever you get chance. Send me the deck, Bhakti.
Yeah,
I'll review it, and if I have comments, I'll send you privately.
Sounds good. Thanks. Anybody else want to volunteer to review the deck? Okay. In that case, I think anybody have any opens? Mark, Ali?
Nope, nothing major.
No, I'm good,
Robert?
thank you.
So thanks, Ali. Robert, Rita?
Thank you.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Paul, Bill?
Yeah, I just remembered that you previously we have a test person. We have a test person coming to your 9/12. At that time, we have a panel session. Is that still a panel session so that he can talk about tests for chiplets?
Yeah, we're still going to do a panel. We're probably I'm going to figure it out this week, but yes, it's going to be a packaging and test panel the way things are. If you look at
Yep. So we have I think we have a person from Advantest.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Gia, welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any opens? Okay. Well, in that case, I think we are done. Thank you all. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
week.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.